Speed is more than motion, it is a language spoken in numbers, precision, and nerve. Every era has its messenger of momentum, a machine that pushes physics until it feels personal. Some chase comfort, others chase efficiency, but the rarest breed exists for one purpose only: to claim dominance over time itself. These are the machines that redefine what fast really means, the ones that make riders question their limits while engineers chase the next tenth of a second. And when that pursuit meets engineering obsession, something remarkable happens. It stops being about travel, it becomes about transformation. Today, we dive into one of those icons, a name that turned the drag strip into its natural habitat and reimagined what ultimate speed could feel like on two wheels. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment below on which machine you want to see dissected next. Your pick might set the pace for our next deep dive. The Suzuki Hayabusa GSX1300R Race Edition did not appear by chance. It was born from a decade-long chase for dominance that began with a simple, audacious idea: to build the fastest production motorcycle the world had ever seen. At the turn of the millennium, Suzuki engineers had already achieved that title with the original Hayabusa, but they knew records fade as rivals close in. The Race Edition emerged as the answer, a statement that speed could still evolve when guided by precision and discipline. Its story begins deep inside Suzuki's Hamamatsu Development Center, where limits were not seen as barriers but as coordinates for innovation. The foundation of the GSX1300R platform was already formidable. Its 1,299 cubic centimeters inline-4 engine, forged pistons, and aerodynamic bodywork had set new benchmarks. But for the Race Edition, Suzuki's engineers targeted more than just top speed. They wanted the entire power curve to hit harder, to respond faster, and to hold stability through conditions that would test both man and machine. They recalibrated fuel mapping, reinforced the gearbox, and refined the ram air intake system to increase air pressure at extreme velocities. Every part was either lightened, balanced, or optimized. Even the fairing screws were chosen for aerodynamic consistency. Beneath the streamlined body, titanium replaced steel in several key components, saving weight while maintaining structural integrity under intense stress. The result was not a different motorcycle but a distilled essence of the Hayabusa philosophy. Every turn of the wrench served one goal: acceleration without compromise. As the Race Edition took form, test riders reported sensations unlike anything they had experienced. The throttle response was immediate, torque surged like a controlled wave, propelling the machine through each gear with an almost electric intensity. Yet what truly impressed was its composure. At 180 miles per hour, where most bikes start to feel nervous, the GSX1300R Race Edition tracked like it was carved into the air. Aerodynamic tweaks, including a subtly reprofiled nose and refined tail section, generated downforce without drag, allowing riders to maintain confidence even at terminal velocity. In this pursuit, Suzuki balanced extremes: power versus control, aggression versus grace. And the visual language reflected that same duality. The body retained the Hayabusa's signature silhouette but wore it with leaner purpose, minimal graphics, deeper metallic finishes, and a stance that suggested both readiness and restraint. For enthusiasts, the GSX1300R Race Edition was more than a motorcycle. It was a declaration that the pursuit of speed could coexist with reliability and craft. Each unit carried the DNA of competition but remained approachable enough for riders who respected its potential. Suzuki understood that raw numbers alone do not make legends. It is the harmony between hardware and human that defines greatness. That harmony became evident not only on the drag strip but in the way the machine responded to its environment. The chassis tuning allowed subtle feedback through the frame. Riders described a sense of connection that blurred the line between thought and motion. Such balance did not happen by accident. It came from meticulous iteration and countless hours of data analysis. Every vibration pattern, heat reading, and load response was recorded and refined until the bike felt almost alive. The GSX1300R Race Edition was not simply faster than its predecessor, it was more aware, more communicative, and more precise. But to achieve such refinement, Suzuki had to confront a broader question: How much speed is too much for the real world? Regulations were tightening. Insurance companies were skeptical. Safety advocates questioned the need for machines capable of breaching the 200 miles per hour threshold. Suzuki's answer was confidence through control. Advanced electronic aids were integrated quietly, never to interfere but to assist when physics reached its edge. Traction control, launch assistance, and refined ABS systems created a partnership between rider and technology rather than a conflict. The race edition became proof that speed could be civilized without being softened. It delivered adrenaline with accountability. And that balance gave it an identity distinct from any other machine on the road. The GSX1300R Race Edition reminded riders that mastery comes not from overpowering a machine but from aligning with it. Each ride became a lesson in patience, precision, and trust. Riders learned to roll on the throttle smoothly, to feel the subtle grip changes, to sense how air resistance shifted as the speed built. The bike rewarded skill and punished arrogance, a teacher cloaked in titanium and carbon fiber. It was built for those who respected momentum as much as they craved it. Through that respect, Suzuki preserved the Hayabusa's soul while pushing it closer to mechanical perfection. Yet every great machine carries with it the weight of its legend. The GSX1300R Race Edition had to live up to the myth of its name while carving a new legacy. It succeeded by refusing to be defined only by numbers. Top speed became the headline, but refinement was the story. Suzuki had created a motorcycle that could dominate the drag strip one moment and cruise with civility the next. Its duality set it apart, its engineering ensured its immortality. But to understand the depth of its achievement, we must look beneath the spectacle and uncover what truly made it the drag strip monster it was destined to be. And that is where the story accelerates. In the second act of the Suzuki Hayabusa GSX1300R Race Edition story, the focus shifts from the engineering lab to the asphalt. This is where numbers meet nerve. A machine can be perfected in theory, but only the drag strip reveals truth. The Race Edition was designed for that crucible, a place where every variable is stripped away until only acceleration remains. Here, the Hayabusa's modifications turned into a symphony of timing and traction. Every component, from tire compound to clutch modulation, played a role in shaving fractions of a second from the run. Riders who understood the machine discovered that success was less about brute force and more about rhythm. Launch control systems helped manage wheel spin, but the true advantage came from the engine's broad torque band, which allowed for clean, uninterrupted thrust through each gear. The GSX1300R Race Edition's transmission, reinforced and precisely indexed, clicked through ratios with mechanical confidence. There was no wasted motion, no lag, it simply delivered. The power curve was tuned to stay within an envelope of maximum acceleration, keeping the front wheel light but stable, a balance that most motorcycles struggle to maintain. Suzuki's engineers had designed the suspension geometry to handle both the violence of a launch and the stability of high-speed passes. Adjustable damping allowed fine-tuning for surface conditions. When dialed correctly, the rear tire clawed at the track with efficiency that bordered on artistry. The quarter mile became not a test of courage but a test of discipline. Every reaction had to be measured, every fraction of throttle calculated. Riders described it as a machine that demanded composure. Any overreaction would throw away precious milliseconds. In professional drag competitions, the Race Edition's influence became immediately visible. Private teams began using its platform as a foundation for builds capable of consistent sub-10-second runs, an achievement once reserved for full custom rigs. What made it remarkable was its repeatability. The GSX1300R Race Edition did not rely on perfect weather or specialized fuel. It could deliver performance across conditions, from humid evenings to dry, high-altitude tracks. That consistency made it a favorite among serious racers and enthusiasts who valued reliability as much as results. But speed brings scrutiny, and with every achievement came debate. Some saw the Race Edition as the apex of mechanical engineering. Others argued that such power had little place outside the drag strip. Suzuki's official stance was pragmatic. The company emphasized safety, control, and respect for the machine's capabilities. In doing so, they reframed the narrative. The GSX1300R Race Edition was not a rebellion against limits but a demonstration of what could be achieved within them. Its technology would later influence the tuning and safety systems found across the broader motorcycle lineup, showing that lessons learned at the edge could make every ride safer and more efficient. In that sense, the Race Edition served as both experiment and educator. What few realized, however, was how much attention to detail separated it from its peers. Even minor aspects, such as the way air flowed through the cooling system, were studied under high-speed data collection to prevent thermal fade during repeated passes. Engine mapping was optimized for sustained performance, not just a single burst of glory. The electronics suite monitored fuel delivery and spark timing with microsecond precision. These refinements made the GSX1300R Race Edition capable of running multiple back-to-back passes without degradation, a critical advantage in competitive events. As data-driven as it was, the bike retained an analog soul. Unlike some rivals that leaned heavily on electronics to mask mechanical shortcomings, the Hayabusa Race Edition relied on inherent balance. The chassis design, weight distribution, and aerodynamic contouring worked together to create a feeling of stability that no computer could replicate. Riders often remarked that it felt intuitive, almost predictive, as though it understood intent before inputs were made. This was the result of meticulous mechanical harmony rather than digital intervention. Beyond the technical, there was an emotional layer that defined the Race Edition's legacy. It inspired a generation of riders who saw in it the pure expression of mechanical possibility. Drag racing had always been about human reaction, the confrontation between timing and trust, and the GSX1300R Race Edition amplified that relationship. The sound of its engine at full load became a kind of anthem for the mechanically obsessed. But every machine that reaches this level faces an inevitable question: what comes after peak performance? Suzuki engineers knew that once a motorcycle breached the limits of human reflex, further progress would depend on integrating intelligence and restraint. That realization would shape their approach to future iterations and influence the wider industry. The Hayabusa GSX1300R Race Edition was a reminder that progress comes from balance, not excess. Its success proved that the pursuit of speed could coexist with the pursuit of safety, precision, and responsibility. It demonstrated that engineering greatness is not about overpowering physics but collaborating with it. Still, what truly solidified its place in history was not just what it did on the drag strip but how it redefined what a production motorcycle could represent. By achieving consistent, controllable performance at the edge of possibility, it forced the industry to reconsider what road legal could mean. The Race Edition became a benchmark, a measuring stick for both technology and courage. Yet its greatest impact was still unfolding. Its design philosophy would ripple through every machine that followed. And that ripple brings us to the final part of its journey, where influence turns into legacy and the GSX1300R Race Edition's story transcends performance to become part of cultural memory. When the Honda CB4 Interceptor concept faded from the spotlight, its echoes began to surface across Honda's design and product strategy. The Honda CB4 Interceptor concept had fulfilled its purpose as a catalyst. It was never about sales, but about shifting perception. Over the next several years, Honda's production motorcycles started to reveal how deeply that shift had penetrated. Subtle visual cues, new material finishes, and a revived confidence in minimalist design all traced their lineage back to that carbon-clad vision from Milan. The Neo Sports Cafe lineup became the most direct beneficiary. Models like the CB1000R and CB650R carried forward the Interceptor's mix of sculptural aggression and clean simplicity. Gone were the excessive graphics and layered plastics of earlier designs. In their place stood purposeful geometry, tight integration, and exposed structure. The CB4 Interceptor concept had taught Honda that emotion could emerge from restraint. Every line on these bikes seemed borrowed from the concept's visual vocabulary: compact massing, truncated tails, and lighting that felt engineered rather than ornamental. Even marketing materials began to use phrases about honesty and performance purity, signaling a brand-wide embrace of the Interceptor's ethos. Beyond aesthetics, the CB4 Interceptor concept left traces in how Honda approached technology. The turbine headlight, while not reproduced literally, foreshadowed the company's experiments with energy recapture and adaptive electronics. Honda's engineers began to study how small-scale energy harvesting could extend battery life for auxiliary systems. Meanwhile, digital interface designs became simpler, echoing the concept's minimal dashboard. The goal was to reduce distraction and strengthen the connection between rider and machine. The CB4 Interceptor concept had made that connection emotional. Production models now made it practical. In industry discussions, the CB4 Interceptor concept also marked a turning point in how concept bikes were interpreted. It demonstrated that conceptual design could serve as cultural commentary. Where earlier prototypes focused on shock value, the CB4 Interceptor concept engaged audiences through coherence. It looked futuristic not because it tried to predict gadgets, but because it distilled timeless principles. Designers across the industry began referencing it as proof that meaningful progress often comes from refining, not reinventing. This quiet revolution influenced how other manufacturers unveiled their own prototypes in the years that followed, with a noticeable return to purity and purpose. Inside Honda, design teams reportedly cited the CB4 Interceptor concept as a morale booster. It reminded engineers and stylists alike that the company still had the creative edge to inspire conversation. That pride carried into projects beyond motorcycling, from automotive styling cues to branding campaigns focused on innovation and emotion. The ripple effect was subtle but real. The concept recentered Honda's narrative around imagination. From a consumer standpoint, the CB4 Interceptor concept had another unintended effect. It reawakened public curiosity about concept motorcycles as legitimate works of design rather than marketing stunts. In online communities and design forums, enthusiasts began treating such prototypes as art installations that reflected social and technological trends. The CB4 Interceptor concept occupied that rare space where mechanical design crossed into cultural relevance. It sparked debates about sustainability, digital integration, and the meaning of individuality in a connected world. Even years later, photos of it continue to circulate whenever conversations arise about the future of motorcycling aesthetics. Its timing was significant too. The CB4 Interceptor concept arrived during a period when the motorcycle industry was searching for identity. Global sales were plateauing, younger riders were hesitant to enter the market. In that environment, the CB4 Interceptor concept became a symbol of renewal. It showed that motorcycles could remain aspirational even in a digital age dominated by convenience and automation. Its message was simple but powerful: emotional connection still matters. For Honda's leadership, that message translated into strategy. The company began to focus on making its modern machines feel approachable yet advanced. The CB4 Interceptor concept's mix of traditional form and futuristic function served as a blueprint. Every new design would aim for clarity and engagement, rather than spectacle. That decision helped Honda strengthen its image as a brand that could evolve gracefully, neither chasing trends nor clinging to the past. Culturally, the CB4 Interceptor concept also bridged a generational divide. Older enthusiasts admired its mechanical authenticity, younger audiences appreciated its technological potential. It united two groups that often see design differently. In doing so, it accomplished something larger than brand promotion. It redefined how motorcyclists discuss progress. It became acceptable to celebrate innovation without dismissing heritage. This balance is now visible in Honda's lineup, where modern machines pay subtle homage to their ancestors without replicating them. The impact of the CB4 Interceptor concept can even be measured in language. When motorcycle journalists describe new designs as futuristic yet grounded, they often invoke the same vocabulary that surrounded the Interceptor. Words like purity, precision, and evolution replaced louder terms like aggression or dominance. The tone of motorcycle storytelling changed, emphasizing intelligence over excess. That linguistic shift reflects how deeply one concept can influence collective imagination. In retrospect, the CB4 Interceptor concept achieved something rare for a one-off display piece. It proved that a design can have lasting influence without being mass-produced. It became a North Star for Honda's identity in the 2020s, reminding the company and its audience that the future of performance lies in harmony, not conflict. Instead of rejecting the past, it integrated it. Instead of overwhelming technology, it humanized it. On a symbolic level, the CB4 Interceptor concept also spoke to a broader truth about design progress. Innovation does not always look like disruption, sometimes it looks like refinement. The Interceptor concept refined the café racer's language until only essence remained. The result was not a replacement, but a redefinition. That redefinition continues to inspire custom builders, industrial designers, and digital artists who see in it a timeless balance between art and logic. Looking at Honda's trajectory since then, the spirit of the CB4 Interceptor concept persists even as the industry turns toward electrification. Future prototypes now reference modular batteries, lightweight composites, and smart connectivity, yet many retain the Interceptor's clean geometry and expressive restraint. The concept's DNA survives because it articulated a universal design truth: simplicity and intelligence will always outlast novelty. As we close segment 3, it becomes clear that the Honda CB4 Interceptor concept was more than a motorcycle. It was a statement of identity, a symbol of creative courage, and a quiet challenge to every designer who would follow. The Suzuki Hayabusa GSX1300R Race Edition closes its story not with a finish line but with perspective. Its impact can be measured in more than speed. It reshaped how we define performance itself. Before it arrived, the conversation around motorcycles often centered on displacement and horsepower. After it, the conversation evolved into balance, predictability, and the integration of intelligence into motion. The GSX1300R Race Edition reminded the industry that ultimate performance is not about excess but precision, that every additional mile per hour must be earned through control. Its creators delivered a lesson that continues to echo through design studios and testing grounds. The fastest machines are those that make riders feel in command, not in danger. For Suzuki, this model became both a technical milestone and a philosophical compass. The company's later innovations, from improved traction systems to refined chassis dynamics, all trace their lineage to the Race Edition's relentless pursuit of usable speed. The Hayabusa name became a seal of intent, a promise that engineering could still inspire emotion in a data-driven world. Owners of the GSX1300R Race Edition understand this better than most. They do not speak of it as just a motorcycle but as a mentor that teaches timing, patience, and respect. Few machines manage to influence both the craft of engineering and the culture of riding so deeply. In racing circles, its reputation endures as the standard for consistency. In garages, it remains a prized symbol of mastery. Every detail, from its aerodynamic silhouette to its finely tuned mechanics, stands as proof that the pursuit of perfection is worth the effort even when the outcome can never be absolute. The Suzuki Hayabusa GSX1300R Race Edition is remembered not for what it beat but for what it built, a legacy of disciplined innovation. It reminded the motorcycle world that greatness does not arrive in a single burst of glory. It is refined over time, through precision and patience. That is why the name continues to resonate long after the stopwatch stopped. It became more than a drag strip monster, it became a philosophy on wheels. And for those who ride, build, or dream about speed, that philosophy endures. Because the real victory of the Hayabusa GSX1300R Race Edition is not in the records it set but in the respect it commanded. It stands as proof that speed, when guided by intention and control, becomes something greater than performance. It becomes progress. END